him bending over the horse's neck. Today, they'd be one of the last to arrive at the river, and she knew Marcos didn't like that. But he was such a good husband, he never said anything or told her she was too big to come. The Estado de Coahuila in Mexico had let go of their water earlier in the spring. Now, at the bend where the river turned north again, it was shallow enough to walk a horse through without the rider getting his feet wet. Light was leaking around the few clouds on the eastern horizon, and the giant reeds on the banks were turning from black to green. The greedy desert gave up little ground to the intrusion of water-hungry plants. Gray, stony soil, crabbed with the claws of sotol and ocotillo and horse-crippler cactus, pushed nearly to the water's edge. The first of the mounted diablos rode into the water, and a shout went up as the others followed, horses' hooves churning the water, women clutching their men and their skirts to keep them from trailing in the water, children running out to shout across to rangers waiting by a truck with the lights and siren on. Rangers waving and shouting back. On American soil in Big Bend National Park, where the Rio del Norte was called the Rio Grande, the vaqueros slid from their horses and caught yellow shirts and helmets from a ranger tossing them from the rear of a truck. This was Gabriella's favorite part, and though she'd watched it a dozen or more times, she steadied Tildy and stared transfixed as Mexican vaqueros turned into American firefighters. The Diablos, one of the most respected fire crews in the Southwest. "Adios," Marcos called, and waved his yellow helmet in an arc as the truck backed up the slope from the river, the crew in the back. Tildy twitched her ears and neighed softly, but she was as steady as a rock. She acted as if she knew Gabriella was carrying a child and didn't sport around the way she did when it was just Marcos on her back. "Adios, mi querido," Gabriella whispered, and waved until the truck was over the low hill between the road and the river. The women and boys were riding the horses back across the river to Boquillas to open up their shops. Business was good, not as good as 2 weeks before when American colleges were on spring break and kids came to Big Bend to raft the river. Big Bend was proud of the villages that shared the river. Together they showed how countries should live as friends. The rangers came across to visit and to eat in Mexico. Visitors were sent to share a Mexican beer. Boys made money ferrying them across in little skiffs for $1 or $2, and the littler kids laughed and joked as they helped them to get astride the tough little burros, and then, for a quarter, they led the burros into the village where the women had crafts and food for sale. Older boys and men lucky enough to own pickup trucks would take the more adventurous tourists into the wild Coahuila Mountains to camp or hike or just breathe the cleanest air in the world. 3 days later, at 2:15 in the morning, Gabriella's contractions came. Her little sister Lucia had been assigned to look after her while Marcos was working fire crew. Lucia, just turned 7 and so serious and responsible, Gabriella wondered where she had come from, ran to tell their mother. Alicia and Gabriella's mother-in-law, Guadalupe, packed her into a borrowed donkey cart for the short trip to the river. Boquillas had no doctor, no hospital, and no medicines. That was reason enough to have her baby in America, but Guadalupe had delivered more babies than a lot of doctors, and bragged that she never lost one. Guadalupe had refused to deliver her first grandchild. She scolded Gabriella for asking and told her the best gift a mother could give her child was to be born in the United States, over the river. The baby would then be a citizen of both the United States and Mexico and would have work and education if he wanted it. Guadalupe had no doubt that her first grandchild would be a he. "I can walk," Gabriella protested until it was clear they were set on giving her the ride in the cart they had gone to so much trouble to get for her. Guadalupe led the donkey, and Gabriella's mother walked beside the cart to hold Gabriella's hand. The jolting